The Reds. The Reds went on a 5-game winning streak immediately after our last podcast, Skinny. And then right before it was time for us to record again, they dropped 2 in a row on the same day, got smashed by the Cardinals in a doubleheader on Wednesday. They'll play the final game against the Cardinals here in just a few hours. We're recording this on Thursday morning. They're currently tied with the Brewers for second in the NL Central at 16-15, 2 games back of the Cubs. Skinny, I want to start with talking about Noelvi Marte, because it feels like he's been a huge part of this recent surge up until the back-to-back losses yesterday. He's slashing 373, 593, 965 with 3 homers, 16 RBIs, 4 stolen bases. Obviously, he didn't start with the team at the beginning of the year, so that's all been done in a pretty short succession here, about 13 or 14 games now. What do you make of this resurgence? How legitimate is it? And how important is this for the Reds, given the situation that they're in with not only Jeimer Candelario, but also you've got a couple of young prospects in Cam Collier and Sal Stewart, who you might be thinking about bringing up in this situation too early if a guy like Noelvi Marte isn't producing?
I think a couple of things. I think last year, I think you just have to turn the page on it. It was wonky from the time he got suspended to the fact that he didn't hit worth a damn in Louisville, and they still decided to bring him up. I don't think they gave him enough time to kind of get his act together. Then he came up here and pressed, and then he had defensive problems because he had mechanical issues throwing the ball. I think it all compounded itself into just one awful half a season that he played. He's still a highly regarded prospect. He played really well when he came up in 2023. I think that's closer to the player that he is. I think to his credit, when they sent him down to start the year, he could have gone one of 2 ways here, right? He could have gone sideways of woe is me, and instead he went down there and raked. And they fixed his mechanical issues throwing the ball in spring training. He still has some issues, but they've seemed to fix that, and probably that gave him a confidence boost that he's not carrying his at-bats to the field. He's not carrying his problems in the field to the at-bats, and they all kind of marry each other. And I think it's been a big revelation. Is he going to hit over 300 the rest of the year? I don't know, but I don't think he's going to be the guy that we saw last. I think last year was just honestly an aberration.
Yeah, that'd be huge. I mean, they really need another offensive piece to step up and keep playing well here. Hopefully he can be that guy.
And how important has Austin Hayes been to the lineup? And, he gets hurt. Now he's out of the lineup. They don't score again.
That was literally the next words out of my mouth was going to be Austin Hayes has kind of been the guy leading them at the plate so far. And then he tweaks his hammy running the bases and scoring in the 6th inning on Monday. He had an MRI. I don't think they have any new updates. They didn't as of yesterday before the games.
I looked right before the podcast. I didn't see one if there was one. If there was, I missed it.
Yeah, same. So we don't know what the extent of it. Still seems like it's day to day, but obviously hamstrings can be a tricky thing sometimes. So we'll see where it goes from there. Hopefully that doesn't completely kill the momentum he had at the plate. Chase Petty, though, he gets called up, gets to make his MLB debut. It was a rough one. 9 earned runs in 2 1/3 innings. Did strike out a couple of batters. What were your thoughts on Chase Petty?
Disappointed. I mean, I wasn't expecting 6 shutout innings, but boy, that was really disappointing because he's pitched well. He's pitched his way up the chain. It was a straight trade back in whatever that was, 2019 or 2020, when they got him from the Twins, a former first-round draft pick, and that was actually
Castillo.
No, it was either It was either Malley or Sonny Gray. It was Malley.
Oh, Gray. It was Gray.
Oh, it was okay. Yeah, you're right. It was Sonny Gray. You're right. And it felt like that was the start of here's the rebuilding process. You're trading a qualified all-star starting pitcher for a kid who's still a teenager and still in A-ball. In fact, I don't even know if I think he'd been in rookie ball, whatever. But former first-round pick, they were trying to then stockpile some talent. And to his credit, he's gradually moved his way through the system, and here he was. And, oh, boy, that was rough. I'll take it as let's see more. My bigger concern is they've got a real Alexis Diaz issue, don't they?
Well, he blew up again in the 9th inning. Honestly, at this point, I think Alexis Diaz is done. I do too. Kind of already felt that way. This was just another sort of nail in the coffin for him, I think.
I guess what has happened to him?
Well, I think the fact that he couldn't throw a strike for a long stretch there really kind of ruined him. And then trying to get back, it's just like he doesn't have – if he does throw a strike, he doesn't have any stuff. He's just getting hammered.
And that slider's awful. It just sits there and says, hit me as far as you can hit me.
Yeah, he hangs all the breaking stuff if he throws them for strikes. And if he doesn't, then guys just aren't swinging, and he's completely at a loss there. So I really just don't see a path back for him. I think he's done.
And I think Terry Francona's tried to manage that to try to get him back, like get him in. Although that was a fairly high leverage situation, 1-0 ball game in the ninth, but he's been trying to get him into.
But a weird situation with the doubleheader. I mean,
right, and it was correct. And I think at the point, unfortunately for Alexis Diaz, once it started to compound itself, it's like we got another game today. You're out. You're going to have to eat this one, my man.
Yeah, you're going to have to get us through it. Going back to Petty though, he got hammered. Obviously, you give up that many runs in 2 1/3. The sinker though, he keeps the ball down. I mean, he relies on that sinker and he keeps it low. You would feel like that's a recipe for success in Great American Ballpark. Obviously, it did not work out at all for him in his debut, but overall, his pitching style, I kept watching thinking, it feels like this should be a style for this ballpark going forward, but it's going to take more opportunities. One game isn't going to tell us enough, but it didn't go well. He is the 6th best prospect in the organization, so there are obviously high hopes for him.
Yeah, I'm anxious about getting Rhett Lauder back here at some point.
Exactly. Yeah, it would be interesting to see if you could get Petty going a little bit to have your top prospect and your number 6 prospect both with the major league team pitching at the same time.
And I'll tell you this, Chase Burns ain't too far behind, I don't think.
Yeah, and Green and Lodolo are great. I mean, like what Lodolo's doing is now almost matching Green at this point, and they're both they've been fun to watch this year. So if you could get those young guys going mixed in there with them, it'd be a really exciting summer from the pitching rotation standpoint, which brings us to my next point, which last year the Reds they finished April at 16-14. Right now they're sitting at 16-15. This year they were a half game worse, as I mentioned, but last year they went on to lose 10 of 11 games to start the month of May. They finished May with just a 33% winning percentage. What do you think they're positioned better this season going into the month of May and getting into the summer here?
I do, because I think that was the point where Lodolo got hurt, if I'm not mistaken, towards the end of April, and it felt like there were some other things that crept up, unfortunately, for them. And I do, to your point, and I think it goes back to the rotation. I mean, I don't think you're going to go all the way through this rotation of Green, Lodolo, Abbott, Brady Singer, Martinez, if that's the group, and have 5 bad outings. I don't see lengthy losing streaks. And I see, again, to the point of get a couple of wins on the back end of the rotation, turn it back over to where you're back to Green and Lodolo, and then you build a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah, it was interesting looking back at that record coming out of April last year, because I think a lot of the sentiment this year has been, they're playing better baseball. They look better than they did a year ago. And it's like, well, actually, this time last year, they were right in the same exact spot, basically. So it really is going to depend what happens from here. It feels like they're in a very similar spot. And maybe the NL Central is a little bit more open for.
Yeah, the only thing is the Cubs played every game they played in April was against the team with a winning record, and they came out of that still leading the division.
So there you go. Not great for the rest of the NL Central. One of the big things last year, Skinny, was the 1-run games. They were 15-28 in 1-run games last year. So far this year, they're 3-5. Obviously, not enough of a sample size to have a huge opinion there. But do you feel like that's something we're going to be talking about again all year this year?
Yeah. In fact, remember when I made the prediction, I thought they'd win the division. I brought that up. That hopefully with a new manager, hopefully with health, you turn those 1-run games. I mean, turn 6 or 7 of those 1-run games around and just get back to maybe even 501-run games. Last year's record would have been obviously far better, and I think that I think that will change. I think just also the law of averages will change that a little bit too, right? Sometimes 1-run games are luck. Maybe you backdoor your way into a 1-run loss, like you're down 5 and you score 4 and you lose by a run. Well, is that really a 1-run game? I guess it is, but I think of 1-run games as 3-2 going to the 9th or 5-4 going to the 9th, one way or the other. I think law of averages kind of changes that a little bit too.
Any other thoughts on the Reds or what's going on with them right now?
No, I mean, to their credit, they got you back to being interested again, right? I mean, it felt like for a while this was just a boring team to watch, but the stretch that they play gets you back interested a little bit. That's a good thing.